Okay. I'm live, it's on. All right, we're doing this. Hey everybody, so first off, thank you so much for coming out this afternoon. It's been a fantastic morning. Hopefully everybody had a fantastic lunch. Speak up, well, luckily I'm mic'd, so, but thank you, Guy. And really the thing that we want to talk about today is how to just update proven methods to really supercharge your lead flow. So really when we talk about this, really what are we going to be covering today? And what are we going to be talking about? Well, really what we're talking about today is really three different pieces. One, farming. Two, open houses, and we really want to talk about community events. And not just because these are proven methods, right? How do we upgrade them, not only to increase just our lead flow, but also to make it easier to close those leads, because you've already established yourself as the neighborhood expert. So first off, let's introduce our panelists. So with us today, we have, in the middle, Jeff Bubuck and Dana Ohms, Front Gate Real Estate out of Calabasas.
Hey, everybody.
Yeah.
There's a team.
And then next to me, we have Victoria Velasquez, Amalfi Estates.
Hi.
Out of the Pacific Palisades. And at the end, Jeff Rosa, Market Real Estate from San Diego. So if we haven't picked up on this, it is definitely an all Southern California panel today. These methods are not just through Southern California. You can use these in any market where you're at. So really, first thing we want to tackle today is we really want to start tackling farming. So Jeff and Dana, just to start off, how long have you guys been farming?
Well, I've been farming since I started real estate. We don't have to talk about that, but it's been a while.
Which
Things were all black and white. Yeah.
Okay, and Jeff Rosa, you also do farming as well.
Yeah, I started farming from day one in the business in 2005, and that's really what I built my business on.
Perfect, so that's, 2005, since black and white. Obviously it's proven to work very well for you. And then, so Jeff and Dana, just why farm in the first place?
Well, going back to the black and white stage, there was no other way to farm. We were working in a gated community, and my mentor, broker at the time, that's what she started with, and it was a proven method and it worked. And so I just continued to do that. And we've just progressively grown. When Jeff and I got together, it was just a natural collaboration of old and new. And that was probably one of the big reasons why we decided to, hook up, right?
Yeah, we have, it's like 21, I don't know, there's like 25 gated communities, so we couldn't knock on doors, we couldn't do any of that stuff, so we had to get in through the mailbox, basically. So we got really good at getting creative of that 3 seconds before it lands in the circular file, throwing it in the garbage. We just wanted to make sure we had the most impact before it hit the garbage.
Now, they have to be pretty.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, they do have to be pretty. And then Jeff Rosa, same thing for you, just why farm right when you enter the business?
Farming was the most cost-effective way to reach the biggest amount of people, and I got started in a condo complex that was gated, but I ended up making my way through the gates. And
You broke in.
Jumped a fence or two. But I would leave information about open houses, and this one complex I started in, it was 300 doors, it took me an hour, it was great bang for your buck, all I had to do was print flyers, and that was the very basic. It's since evolved a lot since then, but it was very basic, easy to do, and very effective time-wise.
Yeah, perfect. So Jeff and Dana, your farming has really evolved over time. So let's talk about where you started and kind of where you got today. And we have some examples that we've brought with us of some of your farming pieces as well.
So we send out, how many do we send out, Dana? 20,000?
Right, yeah, 20,000 a month.
Yeah, about $250,000 a year, it's a lot. But we get really selective. What happens, we start putting them out, and what we noticed and what we asked a lot of our clients is that if we put the most beautiful photography, that's what they're looking at, what's going to represent their house. So you want to put the best of the best photography, get the aerial shots. I think we just sold this one, I think this last week. But you can see it's big epic shots and everything. So when these go to the neighborhoods and obviously the sellers just sold, they're going to look at that and say, hey, I want my house to be presented in that fashion. So, first thing was we wanted to make sure we put our brand on there, we wanted to make our logo, and we also wanted to put, our heads on there basically, so that there was that relation to us, the property, and just keep it super simple. Just
And
do full
consistent.
bleed and consistent. And send them out. We do every 2 to 3 weeks, we send them out to a lot of homes. So.
Perfect. And on this one, right, so now this is the back of that same card, right? Now we see a QR code.
Yeah.
Talk me through that.
So when you're branding and you're putting it out there, you don't really know your ROI because you just don't know exactly it's there until you sit at the table and you see a stack of postcards and like, wow, literally we've seen a stack of postcards this big. We're like, that's kind of effective, but we don't know how to really tangibly tell the ROI on it. So then we started obviously using QR codes, and with the pandemic and restaurants, everybody just automatically started using them because at the beginning, none of us wanted to use them, right? It was like, what is this stuff? So they started scanning them, and we wanted to make sure it went somewhere that was going to direct them to a call to action. A call to action on the card to a landing page and then into a plan, an action plan. And so if you get them from the card, if you're lucky enough to get them from the card to make the bait intriguing enough, to the landing page, then into your database, then into an action plan. And that's the whole just simple methodology, is just getting that information basically.
Right. And then Jeff Rhodes, we'll talk about your QR code a little later. We'll see an example, but same question, like why use a QR code?
QR code it's all about lead capture, right? And contact information capturing and proposing a few questions to them, to the people who landed on the QR code of how you can serve them. And it's a great way to get what a client wants and be able to answer that need.
Right. So in Jeff and Dana, in talking about just evolution of cards, right? We've seen now the last card as far as just, here's a property, great, we've listed it. Let's talk through this card.
So this card was basically set up obviously we send out cards to get listings. So we wanted to put one of the top 3 things that our clients that we thought we were answering the question is like, great, you can take beautiful photography, you got a brand, you sell around the area, how do you market my property? So we put this postcard together with a QR code in the back, and it basically says, here's how we promote your property. We can get it on Robb Report, Wall Street Journal. So it was kind of impressive, and then we just listed that on the back. Always try to put up, putting the Google banner on there, the Wall Street Journal, top 1.5%, Zillow 5-star. That's all the people see. It's like a coloring book. You got to think of it almost like a coloring book for a 5-year-old, because that's how they read it. They don't get into too much. This one has a lot more verbiage on it than usual, but you want to keep it as simple as possible, basically. And then that takes them to a landing page to a home evaluation or for an appointment. And we got appointments from this card. If we get one appointment from one of these houses, we're happy.
So when we talk about just the QR code, just first off, what did you use to set it up, and just how easy or difficult is that even just set up right out of the gate?
Oh, T-side. There's QR code generators all over the internet, basically. So we found a couple of them that can put your logo in the center of the QR code, so it customizes it, so it's kind of cool. But I think it's qrcodegenerator.com is the one we use.
Right.
I think it is. So.
Right, and now we get somebody, they fill out their QR code, right? They go into a form fill, they go into your system, and one of the pieces of the system is this drip system, right? And it's specifically a drip text system.
Yep.
So let's take a look at just some examples of text messages that get sent to you, or essentially to me, and kind of talk through what we call your quote unquote 15 days of pain.
Well, so Mitch actually was at the office and he's like, does this actually work? I'm like, yeah, try it. So he got hammered with, it was automation, but it was automation that we wrote. So it was text, email. I'm obviously not going to call you to see if you wanted to list with us, but.
Well, I mean, I do talk to you quite a bit, so.
Yeah. So we put it into a CRM that puts it into an action plan that actually would just, get him to raise his hand, which is basically asking him questions if you'd like a home evaluation. And I think you can read, so you can read some of through the text and some of the stuff that we play around with and play with the keywords and play with just the language. And we wanted to make it look like it's written by us, not by a robot, because it is written by us because it's automated through us because we wrote it. But that really, we've had leads, from 2-3 years into the database, all of a sudden just go, okay, I'm ready. I'm like, well, who the hell are you? Oh, nice to meet you. But yeah, so the action plans, you put them into any CRMs, whether you're using Sync or Follow Up Boss, Sierra Interactive, all of them have these type of action plans, but write them yourself. Don't let the robot do it. Or don't just take the boilerplate, because your competition is probably saying the exact same thing. and customize it to your client. It's really important to do that part.
So when you've customized these things, just talk me through some A/B testing. What are you looking for? Talk me through just what does that look like? What's your process?
Throw out what doesn't work and double down what does. And you don't know what's going to work until it happens. And sometimes you think the stupidest thing you ever did work, so you just don't know. So you just let it all go out there. After a while, if you don't see a return on investment or people raising their hand, then you kind of back off on it. You got to be careful with it. But all this stuff is all great and everything. The most important part is that we're trying to get the appointment for our team, for our agents. And, with the agents and having them ready for it, trained in the CRM, they're all super, super, super into this stuff, or at least they say they are. But because when they get that deal, it's a big win, and everyone goes, "Wow, this stuff really works." But the most important part too is when it does get to the agents, is the conversion. Doing script training is unbelievable. I don't know how many people are on the script training with us and Anthony's team and everybody else. There's quite a few. And that's open to pretty much anybody, right?
It is.
Do that? Yeah. So we have script training with a bunch of side teams now on Mondays at 9:30. Phenomenal. You walk away learning so much stuff on that. And then, the important part is the conversion. And then with the agents, and getting these leads into a system is into your database. You got to get them into as a client. This is just top of the funnel stuff. You want to get them down into your top 50 or your 250. We work with Workman Business Systems, which is phenomenal coaching system that just has all the structure already done for you. You don't have to think about it. It's in a box. The hard part is you actually have to do it, but it's there. So if you could put all these components together just to get into your database so you can make a relationship with these people, that's all it's about. A lead's a lead until they're your friend and client. And that's how we kind of look at it. That's what.
Perfect. And now that you've put all of this in place, just what has it done, not to lead flow specifically, right? Because we know we're drawing leads, but just conversion of your leads at this point?
I mean, there's really cool stories. Like we sold a $15.5 million property from a lead, and the guy's name was like some ridiculous name that I was almost like, oh yeah, this guy's real. Well, he ended up being real, So I think his name was Steel Smiley, I'm not kidding. You're gonna throw that one in the garbage, right? But you don't know till you know, and that's why you have these systems to cook them, treat them all the same until you throw them out or keep them, and then you cultivate them. And these leads take 6 months, 8 months, sometimes 2 years, but we have 15,000 buyers in our database right now. We have our own little business in a can, and I want to push that up to like 50,000 so that when we get a listing, we can do some really cool reverse prospecting within our own database. So that's kind of the main goal. And the postcards and all this stuff is all part of the whole plan.
It's all part of just the entire package at the end of the day. And I guess would you also say is once somebody raises their hand, they've seen you or heard from the text message so many different times, just how easy or difficult is it to then move them to convert them at that point?
Oh, so much easier.
Yeah.
Because you've been cooking them.
Exactly.
For a long time.
Perfect. So let's move on to open houses. So Victoria.
Yes.
Just talk me through how do you prepare for an open house? And I know everybody here, for the most part, has probably done an open house and probably is prepared for an open house. Talk me through your process.
Yeah, well, I think the first thing is to do it with intention. I think coming from COVID where we didn't have open houses, and I think that was also pretty nice for a lot of us, but I think now we're at the stage where we're all realizing how much value they really added to our business. I think I look at it at the lens of like, we all work so much. If we're gonna take an extra 3 or 4 hours on our weekend, which is our time with our friends, family, our most precious time to do something, like make it super worthwhile. So I think there's first the basics, right? It's like know the property inside and out, know the listing history, know it off the top of your head, memorize so that you can answer any question when someone walks in the door without any hesitation. I always pull comps and all that as if I'm writing an offer on the property. So know what else is on the market, know anything else that's coming soon, know the sales, call the agents on the pending sales and find out what they're about to close for, right? Make sure that you know all that data. Then if you're not a super expert in a neighborhood, which most of us aren't until we are, so in the beginning, it's like drive the streets around the open house. Make sure you look for houses that are under construction, parks, schools. If there is something, make sure you know about it ahead of time. This is all stuff that needs to be done, not day of, but a few days before. So yes, it's gonna take more time, but again, it's gonna translate into much better leads. door knock the 20 doors around. This is one of the softest ways to door knock, which is something that can be really difficult for most of us, but you have such a gentle entry. You're like, hey, I just want, I'm gonna be open at this house right next door. You probably know the owners, you've known them for many years. They're selling, people love gossip, they love to know what's going on. Invite them to come over, super nosy, they wanna check it out, right? It's a really soft engagement. They're gonna be very appreciative. You're already gonna have a relationship with them. Then when they come into that open house, you're not having that like awkward neighbor talk. You're like, hey, Joe, how are you? So glad you came by, right? And it just creates this like aura and energy in the open house that's really positive. I think one other thing that I've recently started to work on is really being able to articulate the lifestyle of the home you're trying to sell. Like, we aren't selling bricks, right? We're selling a life. What is someone trying to purchase with this property? So articulate that. There's a neighborhood in our main area that is these, smaller lots. Jeff can't take you anywhere.
The Zillow call.
He's gonna live
right
take
back.
your call. No, but there's this little pocket in the Palisades here that is these like smaller lots that are really side by side, right? And you could explain it that way, which doesn't sound great, or you could also say, it's incredibly community oriented. Your kids will be playing with the neighbors' kids down the street every day. You will be going to have cocktails at the bluff with your neighbors. You'll walk your dog. That stuff gives people something to grab onto that's very human. And I think that's really important right now, especially post-COVID. Homes represent so much more to people than we ever probably even realized. So I think those are really the biggest things. Oh, last thing, a pocket. I mean, for our market, everyone is like so desperate to get something that I think being able to show that you can deliver a value add. So like an off-market property, something coming soon, and I could talk hours about how to do that, but just finding something, even if it's not the perfect fit for them, they're gonna believe that you're an agent who is at that level that can do that, and I think that's incredibly powerful.
Right, I think these are all really good ways to basically establish yourself as that neighborhood expert.
Yeah.
Right, for sure. So Jeff Rosa, like, everybody knows you in Del Cerro. How'd you get there?
Spending a lot of time trying to get to that point. So it was a lot of open houses. It's signage everywhere. It's mailers, farming, community events. I really honed in on one particular part of town because I think it's just easier to layer your marketing in one place.
Right, and one of the things that you did pre-COVID, was this TV show with restaurant reviews and restaurant intros.
Yeah, so I was part of a weekly television show, and they would work with agents, and you could feature a local restaurant or a local business. I mean, the first one I ever did, I was so nervous to do it, I featured the local preschool. Like, they were a lot more nervous than I was, but I wanted to show that I knew of this great preschool in our neighborhood that everybody should know about. And then it was on television, I had collateral to then promote, I have it on my website. I'm now the expert on everything local in San Diego, which kind of goes with the rest of my business, which is I want people calling me and saying, hey, I need a plumber, I need this. I want to be like the Angie's List of the neighborhood.
Right. So one of the things at open houses, Victoria, you give out is this map.
Yeah.
Talk to me about this map.
Yeah, and I'll just kind of jump on what Jeff said. One sheet that someone on my team taught me, which I think is amazing, is Yelp. If you aren't the neighborhood expert, Yelp the best coffee shop or local restaurant and go eat there before you go to your open house, because then you can tell people, hey, this coffee at this place is amazing. They automatically give you credibility. But back to the map. Yeah, so this was something that our team actually already had when I joined, and I had never been to this neighborhood before I joined our team, by the way. So I really did not know it. So it became my Bible when I was going out on caravan with Anthony or trying to learn the neighborhood, and I realized how valuable it was. So I kind of just took it to the next level. I, one, made it more in my aesthetic, but two, I went through and I created descriptions for every single sub area in the neighborhood, what the vibe was, what the price point was, can you get views here, can you get big lots here, what people would be looking for. And it's a really powerful tool that I now bring to open houses. I bring one nice laminated copy. I don't give it out because I want to get people's email. So I use it as a tool, I show it to them. People are always very impressed because it's hard to know all the nuance of a community. And most people don't even realize there's that many sub areas, right? And so then I use it to engage them, get their email, I send it to them, and then I'm able to quickly curate, like these, based on what you said to me, these areas would be great for you.
So when you send these out, right, you curate it, right? Once again, it's the neighborhood expert piece that I think we've been hitting on a lot today. What do you see just from a conversion rate?
Well, I think automatically you're diffusing the sales component. You're adding so much value. They see you as an expert. They see you as someone who's bringing something different to the table, and you're able to give them something that's going to be really powerful for their search. So I think it totally shifts the dynamic. I'm always trying to get out of like that sales dynamic with the client. So I think this is just a really great tool that really, really helps them. And I genuinely believe that because it really helped me. So I know it will transfer.
Right, and I think talking about just getting out of that sales aspect.
Yeah.
When you start to get out of that sales aspect, and now it's, hey, I'm providing you a service without ever asking for anything in return, just what's been the feedback that you get from your clients at that point?
Yeah, well, I think when you follow up, they'll respond to you, right? You're not bugging them. They're like, oh, this was this really helpful person who wasn't just trying to get me to write an offer, So I think it just totally shifts the energy, and they'll engage with you better. They see you as an expert. They maybe will reach out to you because they have a question. It just totally changes the follow-up. You still have to do our job and continue to follow up and do all that, but I think it really shifts the energetic flow of it.
Wonderful. And one of the things, now that you have these buyers, we know there's a lack of inventory. We just heard about the fact that there was a lack of inventory just about an hour and change ago. Talk to me about now some reverse prospecting that you're doing.
Yeah, so I've actually had done this years prior. Now the need for it has dramatically increased, and Jeff very much helped me like simplify the process and maximize it. But basically, I go through and I set up a search for them in our MLS based on what they're looking for. But then I go back like 20 years and I'll do that same search and I adjust based on price, because obviously we have to factor in appreciation. If someone can buy a $5 million house today, it had to have been a $1 or $2 million house 20 years ago. So you make those adjustments, and I go through and I leverage other agents. I think something that's really important, we've all been in that situation where you have a past client who an agent reaches out to them directly and tries to do a deal.
I turned it off. I swear, I'm throwing this thing in the
deal with
garbage.
them directly, and it just feels like such a stab in the back, right? And I really try to engage the other side because I know how hard we work, and I think if they already have a dynamic with their client, like leverage that. So I reach out to agents and I'm like, hey, my client is looking for very much something similar to this house. Are you still in contact with these clients? Would you want to reach out to them and see if they have any interest in selling? I'd love to do another deal with you. That gets them excited. They want to do another deal. And it's very specific, the language we use, because if you ask agents, do they want to sell? They'll say no. But if you say, will you ask them if they would sell, that's different, because they may not want to ask, but they'll just do it. Otherwise, you're going to ask them directly, right? So I started doing that, and you'd be shocked at how many things will come of that. And yes, it may be a pie in the sky, I want this crazy number, but you're starting to build traction and starting to create business where business wasn't before, and I think that's super, super powerful.
I totally agree on that.
Yeah.
So,
And by the way, we did that. We had a conversation with Corey. I'm like, it's brilliant, simple and brilliant. And then we put it on steroids, and we put it in a text, so you can reach out to 200 people at once. And we got around $7-8 million of deals from it. So thank you. I mean, that was
there you
welcome.
Awesome.
Yeah, I mean, you helped me too. It's been like one of the most powerful tools in my business, I think.
It's perfect. So Jeff Rosa, let's get to you and then the community. So first off,
That's not me.
that is not Jeff. That is Homie. How did you convince your 8-year-old to be Homie?
There wasn't a lot of convincing that had to be done. I have spent some time in a dolphin costume. That's our elementary school's mascot. And when my kids see me wearing that mascot outfit, and my daughter comes back and like, you need a mascot for market real estate, and like, I'll do it. And so she's like online shopping for it. Like, that's like a $400 costume. She's looking at like $5,000 out. Like, we got to tone this down a little bit. But I just wanted to do something different. Like, I think another part of it was, we do this NC2A draft, with the kids for the NC2A tournament. So they're looking at mascots, and like mascots just became a big deal in our house. So lo and behold, here's Homie.
And how does Homie work out when you bring Homie places?
Homie Well, I have a few people that transform into Homie, like, because it's they're really interested in doing it. Like, the idea of it is great, but then the follow through kind of suffers a little bit, like anything with kids, right? But Homie has been to like jogathon events and Little League games, and Homie can dance when they're playing music. And it's a great way for like kids to come up and take a picture with a mascot. It's really goofy. It just kind of lightens the mood a little bit.
Right, and you're really involved in your kid's school. So just how easy is it just to get involved in just local school events?
I mean, schools are, as we move out of COVID, and particularly before COVID, I mean, schools are always looking for volunteers. Like, I'm from a family of educators, my parents, my brother, my wife, sister-in-law, they're always looking for volunteers, and me as a parent, like, I want to be involved in, what my kids are doing at school. If I can contribute in a certain way, I'm not going to be the guy that's going to go in and like read books to kids. That's, not what I want to do. But if I could do something fun like this, or help run a jogathon or run a camp out, like, I think it's just a great opportunity to volunteer and help out, and it doesn't hurt to be seen doing good things in the community either.
Right. And what do I do if I don't have kids in a local school district, but I still want to get involved in community events?
I think we all have something we're passionate about. It could be the environment, it could be literacy, it could be housing. There's all sorts of things that we, particularly in this line of work, like it was touched on earlier, we're all like the doers in the community, and we have that spirit of giving back. And so the number one thing I would say is like find what you're passionate about and be involved in it for the sake of being involved in it, because it's like a good thing to do, and we all could use a little more volunteerism, I think.
I don't disagree with that at all. So Jeff and Dana, you recently did an event a few months ago. Talk me through that event.
I talk a lot, you talk.
What event?
The shred event.
The shredding event?
Yeah.
We had been talking. We talk a lot. Getting that to fruition is another story, but we do talk a lot about things. And last year, we actually planned and put it out there, and we had a shredding truck come to our office around tax time. And we really didn't know how that was going to play out, because it's nothing beautiful, and it's not necessarily fun for the kids. It's just really a service. And I happen to know that I have a lot of paper at home. And lo and behold, we had a coffee truck, and we had, I think it was maybe 3 to 6 or 3 to 7, something to that effect, so people that were coming home from work, and they were coming like in the droves. I mean, and they had their families coming, and they were boxes and boxes and boxes of stuff. It was a tremendous success, and we are planning to do another one in about 3 weeks or so.
I was going to say, tax time is coming up.
Tax time's coming.
Absolutely. And
Yeah.
Victoria, you recently did something for Valentine's Day.
Yeah, we did a flower shop event. I think events have been a really cool way for, us to share our creativity, a little bit more of our personality that's different than just the traditional real estate stuff. So one that we did for Valentine's Day was we set up a flower shop in my backyard, and it was beautiful. And we had people come and on us make a beautiful bouquet of flowers that they could take home for themselves or gifts to their significant other. We said their honey, and it was just this really fun event that was totally unrelated to real estate, but just the best way to connect with someone, give them something that they needed, but also maybe wouldn't have gotten on their own. I had a client who I've been trying to get her listing for 5 years, and she came by and made herself a big bouquet of flowers, and she's a single lady, and she was thrilled, So it was just such a lovely way to connect. And I think I got to be creative and do something that I find really fun and beautiful, and people get to see that side of your personality. People came to my home. It was really nice.
Oh, that's fantastic. So, Jeff, we touched on this a little earlier when we talked about QR codes earlier. So now here's another use of QR codes. Explain what the purpose was, how you use it.
So we've recently done 2 events where we used QR codes, and we were raffling off, and in one case we were just no cost to join this raffle. Another one, we were raising money. But we had people sign up to win front row Padre tickets that my family has access to. So all you had to do was scan your phone to the QR code, and it took you to a landing page, which is very similar, by the way, to the open house tool, which kind of where we got some inspiration from it. Like, hey, you could put any question in here. So, we made them register by scanning the QR code, putting their information in there. We also had questions in there that were real estate related, like, do you want information on the local housing market, or do you need a contractor? Those 2 questions can really start any real estate conversation. It starts ones with those that might be looking to buy a house. It starts ones with those that already own a house. So we just collected a little bit of information. It went to a landing page, and then we could then, we're in the business of meeting people and kind of collecting information so that we can communicate with people. So that's the whole objective.
Right, so once you collected their information, what'd you do with it?
Well, first and foremost, 2 different groups of people won Padre tickets, so they were pretty excited about that. I'm a Dodger fan, but all I had was Padre tickets. So we number one, we announced to them that they were the winner. We were also able to announce to the group as a whole, right? That whole audience were able to announce that they were a winner. So it was a chance to communicate with the whole audience of everybody who signed up. And in these groups, actually, those that didn't sign up also got, the announcement, because we were at the school telling them that, this kindergartner won some Padre tickets. So then we also had the people that answered the questions, right? Like, a lot of people are going to say, no, I don't need this information. No, I don't want anything to do with you. That's fine. We'll leave them alone. But those that did engage with us and said, yeah, I need a referral to a plumber or a landscaper, we gave them that information. We engaged in conversation. Those people, because they engaged with us on a real estate topic, are now in our database, where I actually send an email out on a weekly basis, touching on what we do in the market and what community events we're involved in. So they're now a part of our database, and we're trying to, build rapport with them that way.
Perfect. And you're out in the community a lot. Just how often are you either holding events or just bringing market to the community itself?
We're trying to do it as often as possible, where we feel it fits, and that number one starts geographically, and we're trying to do something about once a month. So, we had a jogathon, we had Little League opening day, which was a really hot day, so homie didn't last that long.
Melted.
But we also have other events, we've done trust seminars, we've done 1031 exchange seminars, so we're always trying to offer something for free with no strings attached, where we're out there, where we're inviting people, and then leveraging that opportunity. So about once a month, give or take. Right. And it's a variety of things.
Right, and you've got homie, you've got the tent. How do you determine what you're going to bring out?
A lot of it is temperature driven. Like I said, homie doesn't like the heat.
I want to know where you store all this
Homie
stuff.
can't get wet. In my garage, but it's funny too, because we ended up with this pop-up tent because somebody that I'm in charge of sponsorships for our local Little League. The guy we were getting banners from said, hey, you should get a tent. And so I was doing business with him. I got a tent. So now we'll have that tent out at Little League games, and that sort of thing is just kind of passive and in the background. And I want to say that I'm very careful with we're involved in the community because we want good for our kids, and we want everybody to benefit. We're not out there pushing business. Would you please sell your house with us? Would you please transact with us? So we're very careful about being out there and doing what we want in the community because it's the right thing to do, and it's what we enjoy doing. And just by being there, people will come up to us and talk about real estate because they want to. And I can never think of a time where I led a conversation in any of these settings myself by bringing up real estate. I just completely stay away from that and keep it a lot more genuine, and people just know where to find me, after being around for so long and in so many places.
Right. So now with all of this, kind of one of the same questions we've almost asked everybody is, how does this help now your incoming lead flow and also now converting that incoming lead flow?
So people know us, right? We've already, they recognize us. It's the craziest thing just by being out there. And we had a new pastor come into our church, a Catholic priest who they don't buy real estate traditionally. And last summer I met him after Mass, and I introduced myself as someone who's involved in the church, and we'll get to know each other. And he's and he's a Scottish guy who knows nothing about baseball. And he's oh, Rosa, I saw your name on the Little League fields down the street, right? So that everybody just kind of knows who you are, and then it just makes any of these starting conversations so much easier. They feel like they know you. You're definitely not a stranger, and your company is not a stranger to the community. So it gives you kind of like some instant credibility.
Right, and it's that same piece where now you don't have to sell them on your services either at that point.
Yeah, they're coming to you, in one form or another.
Right. Perfect. So, well, we've got a few minutes left. Wanted to open it up for questions. We have 3 spots on the left, middle, and right. Just hop up to a microphone if you have any questions. There's one right in the middle.
Hi, this question is for Victoria. I'm Teresa Wilson with Stars and Stripes Realty.
Hi.
Where did you get your wholesale flowers? I love that idea, and Mother's Day is coming up.
Oh yeah, no, that would be great. We're LA based, so at the downtown LA Flower Mart, but I'm sure in every community there's something down there. My incredible assistant Ainsley went down there and got a bunch, and honestly, it was incredibly affordable too. We expected it to be much more expensive. Yeah. It'd be a great Mother's Day, lots of different holiday ideas.
My question's for the panel. When you guys were just starting out, obviously you guys have established farms. You've been doing it. You're in the community. You're on the Little League flyer. What were the most impactful things you did just starting out farming and kind of getting direct to the sellers?
I wish I could have got on a team at the time. We had to make one, because it's hard. It's a hard game. In Southern California, I think there's a real estate license in 1 out of every 9 households. So there's more inventory right now. There's more real estate agents than inventory. So it's a bitch. It's a grind. So everything's better with a tribe. And then you can leverage each other on our team. We put everybody on our postcards. We share listings. We make everybody look like superstars and make it all about them. And and help build that up to their database that you build over the years. So it's probably that's where I would start.
I'd say the other thing is consistency. Like if you're gonna do anything, doing it once, doing it twice, like you don't get the impact. It's the month after month and the just continually being out there. When you start a farm, it's not gonna happen for you. If you get a call after your first postcard goes out, like you got lucky. And
Real lucky.
Real lucky. And it's about consistency. And my thought on farming is like, you send it out one time, great, they see it. You send it out another time, hey, there's Jeff again. You send it out a third time, hey, he's here again. And then, down the road, they're thinking of selling, like, where's that green postcard at? Like, where's that Rosa guy? And then all of a sudden it shows up in the mail, right? But it's monthly and it's systematized. It's not a one and done. You can systematize it. That's probably the best thing about it. Inside has the opportunity to systematize it.
And it is passive. It's not a forced, you're not pretending. You're giving them something that is informational for their community for the most part.
Yeah.
And it's just, I think it just resonates after a while.
Absolutely.
Hi, my name is Clarissa with Kinship Real Estate. I have 2 questions basically. With farming, do you plan ahead of time how you're going to market, what you're going to market, how many times you're going to send mailers out, or whatever it is that you're using to farm? And my second question is, do you only farm a certain community, or do you also send out mailers to your past clients, and how do you differentiate both of those?
You gonna take the first one?
So from a planning standpoint with what I do is it's every month. I know that as soon as I send it out, like I'm gonna get an email back from the person we work with to send them out saying, hey, I'm ready for your next round. And it's the same format pretty much every month. It's here's homes that have sold, here's homes on the other side. And we do an 8.5 by 11, like we're the biggest sheet in the mailbox, to the point where a guy calls me every month and says, stop jamming my mom's mailbox. My mom's mailbox.
You get mad about that.
Yeah, they do get mad. If you're not, and the other thing too is if you're not ticking somebody off, you're not like doing as much as you should be doing, because you're gonna make somebody mad and you just have to kind of live with it. But on a monthly basis, and again, keep it systematized and keep it routine. I would say a monthly basis at minimum is effective.
Yeah, and I think you're As far as your sphere of influence is, what we do is we basically take 250 people, we call it the wedding list. And if you can invite those 250 people to a wedding and at least know who they are, not a wedding crasher, you know their name, there's Bob and Susie, then you get them on your list and then you get it organized and you get it on your, we try to get it up to about 250, and that's usually a pretty good number. And those are the people that you repeat. And we send those out to those people. Start with that. Don't worry about a farm. Farm can come later. There's a whole bunch of math you need to do. You need to see the conversion, the turnover, see who's dominating it compared to that. So there's like a whole science to that. Start with your SOI. And it's funny, Verl, who's our coach, he basically says, pick up your phone and just go like this. And you literally go through A through Z, and you will find your 250 people. And if not, then you got to get out there. It's a contact sport. You got to meet the people. But you want to do the most repetition to that 250 people because you want to get them down to a list of 50 people that would most likely to refer you. And that's where the magic's at. No one will ever take that away from you. You'll never have to go look for top of the funnel leads. If you can create a database of 50 people that constantly, do the math on it. If you're a $1 million price point, you got 50 people in a database, and you can get them to give you 2 to 3 referrals. That's like 100 referrals a year. You close 90% of those, that's 90 deals, times $1 million, there's $90 million. Nobody can take that away. You don't have to worry about getting Zillow leads or anything else. So just focus on that. It's not that complicated, but just get those 2 or 3 times out a month. And it's cheap. It's 250 people you're sending it to.
Great.
Quick question about open houses. One, do you guys require or have a sign-in sheet of some kind? And do you have everyone sign in? And then 2, how do you guys distribute information about the property in terms of flyers? Do you guys hand out flyers, or do you just walk around and meet and greet with everyone in the room?
Yeah, definitely have everyone sign in. I mean, you can require it. Some people just won't do it. But yeah, I always am very firm about please sign in. The seller has requested everyone sign in. And then, yeah, always have flyers, but I also always offer digital. I'm a big proponent of not trying to use paper and that kind of stuff. So it's and it also just forces them to give you contact information, right? If you're look, I have this link, I'll send it to you right now. What's your cell phone number? And then you're not asking them for their number so that you can call them. You're asking them to give them something of value, but always have a sign-in. Side has an awesome digital sign-in that we do with iPads now, which is super great. And then I do always have paper stuff now that we're allowed to do it again, just to have.
Okay, so real quick, because we only got a couple minutes left, so we'll go you and you quickly.
Hi, I'm Joe with Adapt Real Estate in Napa. We just launched last month, and we're a team of 3. So that being said, how often do you do these events by yourself or with the team, or how do you split it up or delegate who does what?
Coming out of COVID, we're kind of just really ramping this stuff up. So where it's appropriate for a team and people want to be involved, they can come and join in it. I think there's always some little person that would hop in that costume if given the opportunity. But I think we're not all the same too. On our group of agents here, we all have different things we're interested in. So maybe there won't be any overlap, but sometimes there would be overlap. You got to stick in the arenas that you're already in.
Perfect. And last question.
Hi, I'm Adam from Edge in Manhattan Beach, and my partner and I do a decent amount of farming, so thanks for all the tips. You guys have really supplied some good info. What specifically have been the most successful calls to action that you've been able to get best results from? Because I know that's the key to farming postcards. If you don't have the good call to action, it kind of falls flat.
Yeah, I mean, you have to ask yourself, and you have to just put yourself in the shoes of your client. And everywhere is different, but it's all the same. And it's what are the 3 solutions that you're trying to solve a problem? So if it's a seller, if you think to yourself, what does a seller want when they want to list the house? They want to list it with someone that can sell it, somebody that knows the neighborhood. Are they going to market it properly? How much is it going to be? So you try to take those 2 or 3 big components and answer those questions in the best way that you can. For ours, which was a luxury area, when we put in there and say, we'll get your house in Wall Street Journal, Rob Report, we have our own PR team, that raised, we got phone calls on that. And that was specific to our neighborhood, but it could be for anything. You just got to ask yourself, your neighborhood or wherever you're farming, what are the 3 things you're trying to solve? What are the 3 problems you're trying to solve for that client.
You can also, like, in my farming materials, like, I put out these invitations to the events, like,
Yeah.
come to this seminar. You know, an invitation is a great way for the phone to ring and say, I'd like to come and learn about trust, or I'd like to come and learn about 1031 exchanges. And they would not have called you because they're not going to sell their house tomorrow, but they are maybe doing some estate planning, and that's a good way to provide value for them.
That with Victoria's map, which is amazing, like that's awesome. Make that a landing page. Say, hey, you want to know more about the neighborhoods? You ever question yourself? Make that a landing page. People would love that. So.
Exactly. So I think just to wrap up, because now we're going a little overtime, so just some key takeaways. Really important, if you guys should already know this, definitely for sure, QR codes are back. We saw them on the Super Bowl. If you watch the Academy Awards, they are back, and they are back in a very, very big way. Open houses, being the community expert leads to conversions. And if you're not the community expert, become the community expert. Take the time to learn about the community to get there. And branding. Branding is key, right? Being top of mind through multiple channels, whether that's online or in person, will always keep you in the forefront of clients' minds, which leads you right back to being that community expert again, because realistically, if the client trusts you, it's easier to convert them to a client because it's not something now we have to sell them on, because they already know who you are, they already know who which services you provide, and now it's just providing them value at that point, especially when you're giving them things away without ever asking for anything in return. So on that, I really wanted to thank all of you for spending time with us today, sharing what you've learned, and everybody, thank you so much for coming out today. Really appreciate you all taking the time. Have a great afternoon.